Assalamu alaikum and a very good morning to all our participants and panelists. I welcome you all to the Business Storm webinar brought to you by IKLAS IAS Academy. We've had such wonderful participants all through these 6 days, and I am sure that you would have gained immensely through this week. I'm sure you'd have a lot of questions to ask our speaker as the session progresses. Please do key them down in the Q&A section. We would get them answered by our expert. If your questions are not answered, you can always log into our FB page and our YouTube channel. All our videos of the seminars have been posted in our FB page and also in YouTube. You can ask all your questions against the webinar's videos in the comments section. We would be happy to answer them all. The links have been provided to you in the chat box. You can always like and share them. Remember, sharing knowledge is gaining knowledge. Today, we have another powerful session lined up for you to gain knowledge and to benefit from. It is my pleasure to introduce the speaker to you. Brother Jubran Siddique is a Sharia-compliant investment banker with dedication, determination, and discipline. He has developed a strong, cohesive vision to lead investment strategy for a better tomorrow. He's been able to revolutionize the investment and finance industry by integrating Sharia compliant or the ethical way of investment. He has successfully managed to diversify his investment portfolio into 9 different industries in the past 5 years. He holds an MBA in finance. He's the CEO of Zaria Investment Company, the managing director of JIF Square Private Limited. He's one of the trustees in Aspire College of Excellence and also in the Humanity Trust. Brother Jubran with the topic, creating an alternate source of income.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum to everyone. Firstly, I would like to thank Brother Asmatullah for such a lovely introduction. And indeed, it's a pleasure being with all of you. I would also like to thank IKLAS IAS Academy and especially Brother Mahin to initiate such an interesting and a motivating seminar session in these times of need. Especially around with the COVID-19 situation, I have seen a lot of people in the past asking, especially in the last 6-7 days, being worried and fearful about what to do in regards with overcoming the situation. Also, alhamdulillah, in the last 6 days, I've seen some exceptional and powerful speakers giving some amazing pieces of advice and information. And I really hope to do justice to the place they've left behind. So Bismillah, let me start with first introducing myself to you. It's very important since I'm talking about the concept of finance and investment, it's very important that you're able to connect to me and you're able to relate to me in terms of which background I've come to, because you wouldn't take an advice financially from a person who you're not able to connect or who you're not able to develop trust upon. So firstly, I was born and brought up in Middle East. I was there for 12 to 13 years and my father was there for almost 2.5 decades. How I got my passion in terms of investment was just a hobby. It was when my father was working for one of these companies called Mustashfatul Mamlaka, which is called Kingdom Holding Company, which was the biggest investment company in the Middle East at that time, which was founded and run by Prince Walid bin Talal, who was the richest Arab in Saudi Arabia. He was an exceptional investor. So when I used to be small, I used to go to his office. So I used to see this huge wall, 20-25 feet wall, with more than 150 companies which he has invested in. And it was fabulous. And I used to admire such sort of a grit. And he was known to invest into companies and take them from scratch, from nowhere to somewhere. And this created a sort of a fire, a passion in terms of understanding and learning what investment is all about. So I started doing my research for my own hobby's sake, not that I thought that I will ever do a career in this. I started doing my research in terms of investment, started reading about different investment concepts, different books, started reading about Warren Buffett, Ray Dalio, about Rakesh Jhunjhunwala. Then you can talk about one of the interesting investors that is called IKLAS, and many more investors like this, Walid bin Talal. So such people I started reading upon, started doing my courses with equity derivatives with the Stock Exchange of India, and then MCX and many more like that, just to have a better idea about what I'm doing. When I got into this business, how I got into this business with investments, I think all of you need to understand is when I came from Saudi Arabia to India for my further education, and my father had a heart attack, and then that particular point he had to come back to India. So when he came back to India, he was not active for quite some time, and he decided to invest some money or whatever savings he had to people who he trusted, or people who his trustworthy people trusted. So a team, all my family members, including my father and their family members, together invested their money there. And eventually, what happened was that person had conned them, and it was a very difficult time in our family. That's when it struck among this difficulty that our people are easily conned, and we need to develop something which people trust. We need to develop something which is Sharia compliant, and we need to be able to contribute to the society as much as possible. So with your trust, our honor as my motto, I initiated Zaria Investment Company, and I have come with the background of understanding how it is to lose money. That is what has motivated me to come into this industry. So coming to the topic, it's very important that you understand what wealth is all about. Even though wealth is not a direct topic which I have, I want you to understand what wealth is all about. The reason why I want you to understand what wealth is all about is because all of you, or predominantly a lot of you, would be thinking that making money is all about understanding, is about knowledge, it is about using your brain. But I don't agree with that. I think making money is all about character, it's all about personality, it's all about your attitude, it's how you are. So the better your character, the better your personality, the better the attitude, automatically you will be a good investor. Because unless and until you do not have the right character, you'll not be able to make the money in the right way. So in my understanding, in my limited knowledge, which I've understood, which I've learned in the last couple of years, for me, wealth is all about these things. W stands for wisdom. Now, with wisdom, there is a difference between knowledge and wisdom. According to me, wisdom is knowing how to implement knowledge, because there are a lot of people who have knowledge, but they don't know how to implement it. What's the use of having knowledge if you don't know how to implement it, when to implement it, and why to implement it? That's something which I really value and which I really think is important. And that's exactly what we need to ask God Almighty, that with the limited knowledge we have, He teaches us how to implement that knowledge in the right perspective, in the right time. The second point would be E for endurance, persistence and consistency. Endurance, being able to consistently do something till you succeed in it. When I started my business, Zaria Investment Company, that time I was, I think, around 22 years, and it was something very challenging. That time, a lot of people told me, "Why are you doing this business? Doesn't make sense. You don't have any experience, etc., etc." Which was actually getting into me. So then I went to one of my mentors, which is Mr. Jeffrey Qasim, and before I started my business, I studied in Preston International College. So he was our one of the directors there. So I asked him, so what is the advice you would give me before I start a business? So he said, Jubran, always remember you have to be persistent, no matter what. Even though if it takes 5 years, 7 years, 10 years, be persistent, be consistent, be disciplined. Inshallah, one day Allah's success will follow. Alhamdulillah, that one advice has brought me to some really difficult, challenging times in the last 5 years, because running a Sharia compliant investment company in India has never been an easy task. It's extremely challenging, especially with no background or no previous understanding about this whole thing, learning from the scratch, doing mistakes. It has been a little challenging journey, and may Allah make it easy. So the next point would be A for accountability, which I really feel is important when it comes to your personal accountability as well as your financial accountability. A person should be able to be accountable about what he's doing, what he's decided, what he wants to do, what are his actions, what are his thoughts, what are his plans. He needs to be accountable about everything. He should be able to be accountable about his finances, know where his money is going, where what is happening. Accountability is something which adds tremendous value to one's personality. It really makes a person confident, it makes a person transparent. The more he's accountable, the more he has nothing to hide. So the next point would be L for leadership. Leadership has a lot of qualities in it, but what the most important leadership qualities I think a man should possess to develop the personality he requires for investment is quick decision making. He should be able to analyze the situation and make swift and prompt decisions as and when it's required. It's very important that he knows how to make a decision, when to make a decision, and how to perform under pressure. That's one of the most important things a leader should look forward to. The next important point is T for trust or T for time. Without trust, without being able to develop the trust of your investors, without being able to develop the trust of the people who are working with you, or people who are working for you, or people who are associated with you, I do not think that it's anywhere possible to develop the personality you require to be a successful entrepreneur or successful investor. It's very important to be able to develop the trust which you have in you, and be able to vibrate it around the people, around to the people around you. It's very important. Simultaneously, what's important is time. Allah says in the glorious Quran, "Wal asri innal insana lafi khusr." Allah has promised over time the person who does not value time is at indeed a grave loss. So we need to understand what is the value of time. We need to understand how to value time and how to make the best use out of it. And last but not the least, something which all of us take for granted is our health. We strive a lot to make money, and once we make money, we strive a lot to maintain our health. This is exactly where all of us lack the most important factor to make sure that we are a complete person. We need to make sure our time, our health is taken care of. This is exactly what our prophet, beloved prophet, had also mentioned. So this, according to me, my dear brothers and sisters, my dear friends, is the definition of wealth for me. And this is something which I feel you should inculcate, which you should develop in yourself, to make sure that you get the right personality, the right character to become an investor. As I'm going to talk to you about the alternate sources of income today, I will start, or I'll rather give you 7 to 8 different types of sources to develop your revenue or to develop your income. Inshallah, may Allah make it beneficial for all of you. As the famous Warren Buffett says, never depend on a single income, make investments to create a second source. There's also a very anonymous saying which says a successful investor, a successful businessman has 7 different types of revenues. So inshallah, we'll try to give you some insight on these different types of products which you can actually look forward to in your personal life to invest wherever you are, inshallah. The first would be portfolio management services or stock market investing. In my experience, I've seen a lot of people having extreme views in terms of what stock market investing is all about. Some people consider it 100% haram, some people consider it 100% halal. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to give you an insight. I'm going to give you a rough outline based on the instructions by IOFI, that is AAOIFI, Auditing and Accounting of Islamic Financial Institutions, which is in Bahrain, and IFSB, that is Islamic Financial Service Board, which is there in Malaysia, which are the 2 biggest institutions which give certifications to all the Islamic banks all over the world. So according to IFE standards, whatever it is, I will be giving you the insights upon what is considered halal, what is considered haram. So if you have any other doubts, you can come back to me later. But at the moment, as I mentioned to you, character is very important to be a successful investor. Let me give you some small insights about what character is all about. You need to be an investor and not a speculator. What is the difference between an investor and a speculator? An investor is someone who knows what he's doing. He knows why he's doing. He knows when to enter, when to exit. He knows what exactly he wants out of that investment and what profit he intends to make. A speculator is someone who just comes into it for a ride. He just wants to make some money. He just wants to make a quick buck, and he does not have any idea what he's doing. Market is going up, he's going into it. Market is going down, he's getting out of it. This is not something which helps you become a successful investor. You need to understand risk comes from not knowing what you're doing. Unless and until you don't know what you're doing, unless and until you know what you're doing, you are not at risk. You have to make sure you know what you're getting yourself into, what you're going to do. It's only then you're prepared for the risk which comes with it. The second point would be invest what you can afford to lose. This significantly has helped me a lot with my investment, because what happens is most of the time when you invest with all your eggs in one basket, or at least with whatever you have 100%, you tend to make more mistakes. The reason being why you're more worried about it. What happens if this money is lost? What happens if something goes wrong? You always have this constant thing in your mind as an investor that this is everything I've got. This is exactly what I do not encourage people to do. I encourage you to invest what you can afford to lose. If you have 10 lakhs, you invest 1 lakh. At least you will not be worried about that 1 lakh rupees which you have. So be able to invest what you can afford to lose. This will develop positivity in you. This will help you be detached from your investment, and this will help you generate that positivity which is needed to multiply your money. So that is something which I would encourage all of you to do. Third, a very interesting point. Always remember, money is a good servant but a very bad master. You need to understand when this is being told by the famous Benjamin Graham. Do you know who Benjamin Graham is? I would request all of you to be a little interactive with me. It will be nice, inshallah. Benjamin Graham is the master as well as the coach of Warren Buffett. He's the one who inspired the famous Warren Buffett to be an investor, and he's the one who has been his mentor consistently over so many years. So Benjamin Graham says, always remember, money is a good servant but a bad master. It's when you start making money, it's when you start making profit, it's when you start becoming confident with your investment. If you let it hit your mind, if you let it control you, that's when you start making mistakes, that's when you start losing money. Have a target, make minimal margins, make minimal profit, exit whenever you want to exit, be happy with it. Don't always think about, oh, tomorrow I will make 10 times more, to this I'll make 2 times more, 3 times more. You have exited, you have got your profit. Make 2 rupees, make 3 rupees, make 5 rupees, but make some profit. Always remember, make some profit, don't lose money. The fourth point will be, there is always an opportunity, wait for the right one. This is something which I did, this took me at least 3 years to figure out, that I was always very worried about the fact that, oh my God, I should invest now, the opportunity would go. Oh, why don't I invest in this? Why don't I invest in that? I used to take everything which came my way just because I wanted to make use of the opportunity, because I was starting my business new. I wanted to make sure I'm successful fast. I wanted to make sure I'm at least financially stable, etc., etc. But that's when I realized the true growth comes, the actual growth comes when you know when to say no. The moment you learn to say no, the moment you know how to say no, is when you actually start growing. You need to understand and wait for the right opportunity, because you have to understand that stock market is always filled with opportunities. And whatever these things I'm telling you is not only limited to stock market. It's for your day-to-day activities, your day-to-day lives. So you need to understand that there's always an opportunity. Don't run behind an opportunity. Opportunity will always come to you, but just be prepared to it, and be prepared enough to grasp it and make best use out of it. But know what opportunity you're expecting, inshallah. So then, these are the 4 things which helps in terms of the character you need to develop. What are the 4 things which move the price of an asset? What are the 4 basic things which moves the price of any asset all over the world? Inflation, deflation, rising economic growth, and decreasing economic growth. These are the 4 factors which are the founding factors for any fluctuation in price, for any growth or fall in any economy anywhere in the world. When the economy is rising, you will always see the inflation is also rising. What is inflation? Can anyone tell me what is inflation? Anyone? What is inflation? Any idea? Interesting. Okay. Go price rise, gold. No. Cost of living, price hike. No. Anyone else? What's inflation? Inflation is the power of purchase of the individual. The higher the inflation, the lesser the power of purchase of the individual. The lower the inflation, the higher the purchase of power of the power of purchase of an individual. Inflation is the gauging factor of how the population of a country purchases, the spending power, which is the growth of any economy. The higher the spending power, the higher the growth of the economy. So the lower the inflation, the higher the growth. So you need to understand the inflation. When the inflation is high, the economic growth is also high. What are the things which are interconnected with growth and inflation? Stocks, corporate bonds, commodities, gold. Similarly, what are the things which are connected with inflation? Commodities, gold, inflation-linked bonds. We need to understand there are a lot of things here which is halal, haram. This which I will tell you in the significant slides. International bonds, the conventional bonds are haram. The investment into commodities and gold market online is haram. So how do we tackle these situations? I will tell you this inshallah in the significant slides. So you need to understand this is what controls the global economy. Higher the economic growth, the inflation, the lower the economic growth, the other types of products will grow, will start increasing. Treasury bonds, inflation-linked bonds, tips, lower the inflation, treasury bonds, stocks, and everything. So basically, this is a rough outline about how the global market works. This is so that for you understand where are we getting into and what influences these things. The next, just a Okay. Yes. The next would be basics of investing in stocks. Now, obviously, this I have a very short time, and I don't think I can do justice to the entire session in terms of, in the sense, telling you how exactly to invest in stock market. I will give you a basic outline about what are the important factors to consider when you're investing in the stock market. The reason why you have to consider these things is because these are some fundamental things which I learned from my experience. Now, what is the 52-week high? What is the 52-week low? Basically, it's the momentum of a particular stock. You need to understand when to enter, when to exit. You need to know whether you're entering at a high price or entering at a low price. When it's a 52-week high, it means it's a 1-year high. It means the stock is already overpriced. You don't have to enter. You have to wait. When the stock is 52-week low, it means significantly underpriced. That's when you come to the next point, which is 200-day moving average. You need to see in the last 200 days, how has the stock been moving? Has it been going up or has it been going down? If the stock is breaching a 200-day moving average, you will understand that the stock is going to go up for sure. Inshallah, excuse me. If the stock is breaching the 200-day moving average, it means the stock is going to fall. So you have to understand and gauge the stock based on its momentum, and then based on how you understand what sort of a volumes are there, which is the next point. Volumes mean how the people are investing, how many people are investing, the demand of the particular product. In the whole day, the stock might not be moving that much, but at particular time it would be moving because a lot of people are entering inside, a lot of people are buying or selling the stock. That's when you need to understand, why are the volumes so high? Why are people suddenly wanting to buy the stock? What is the reason behind it? Find out the reason. Try to understand why suddenly there is some commotion or momentum in this particular stock. Then comes the next point, the Islamic factors to consider in purchasing a stock. Most importantly, the company should be debt free, or company should have significantly less debt. Now, there are a lot of other scholarly opinions where some people say 10%, some people say 15, some 20, some 25, some 33. IOFE and IFSB have considered stocks up to 20 to 25% in terms of debt. But I personally believe that you can go with stocks which are debt free, because the Indian stock market has more than 300, 400 exceptional stocks which are debt free. You don't have to worry about it. You have to be able to understand. Say, for example, you have Infosys. When you look at Infosys, during the recent crisis, that is in the last 1 month, the international markets have been bleeding 50%. The international markets have been literally shutting down their value. But Infosys was this one company. If you wake me up in my sleep and you ask me if this is the price should I buy, I will say yes or no, because Infosys has no debt. It is a cash surplus to the company. It has exceptional past track record and a very good future expected record. It has a very good management, and moreover, you have to understand the business of the business you're investing into. So now the rupee is rupee is weakening. The dollar is becoming strong. The rupee has touched 76.44. Now, why is this beneficial for IT? Because all their revenue comes in dollars. So when they keep their dollars in their account, they make at least a billion or two in a year if the rupee weakens. So this is something which is beneficial for them. So under the given circumstances, a company like Infosys is benefiting out of the given crisis and situation. Probably there'll be other things which will be hitting the economy in terms of IT, but IT people don't have any problem in working at home also. So just a rough outline. So this example covers the point: debt, past prospects, future growth, management, understanding the business and the industry. It's very important to understand the business or the industry you're investing into, because a lot of things indirectly are connected to the business. Like, for example, Amazon, the whole US stock market has fallen 15% at least, a very huge fall. Trillions of dollars have gone down. But Amazon is one company which is right now at the highest level in the stock market. The reason being why? Because demand and supply. Right now, Amazon's work is the most because of COVID. Everyone are at home. They need to deliver goods. They need to send people home. They need to make sure they take care of people. Demand is high. Amazon stock prices rise. So this is an indirect connection to the particular stock. So you need to understand the industry really well. Remember, if you don't know what you're doing, you're always at risk. So the next concept, just a rough outline about what are the different types of concepts which you can use. There are some concepts like when you invest in a stock and when the opening price and the low is same. Say, for example, the price of the stock when you open is 100 rupees, and the day's low, that is the stock would fluctuate between 100 to 120. So if the day's low is 100, the open and low is the same, it means the stock will rise. That is a concept. That is something which we have learned from experience. So stock will always rise. There are chances where the stock has breached, but 90%, 85% of times the stock will go up when the open and low is the same. Coming to the next point, when the open and high is same, the stock has 90% chances it will only fall the whole day. Coming to the next, similarly, there are a lot of concepts like this, which obviously I cannot tell you because I have shortage of time. Inshallah, sometime later, if possible, I would surely let you know. Wait for the right price to buy. As I mentioned, it's very important to wait for the right price to buy. It's better to buy a fair company at a wonderful price than to buy a wonderful company at a fair price. A famous saying by Mr. Warren Buffett. You have to understand, you have to buy at the right price, because it's going to be of no use if you're going to invest in a company with no good upside. You have to wait for the right price to come and buy only when you get the price you need. Most importantly, you have to read news. You have to be updated with the world markets, because that is something which affects all the stock markets all over the world, especially the US market. Some tools to read: Money Control, US markets. You have US Wall Street Journal. You have investing.com. You can read the articles here. You can follow these things so that you have a better idea about what's happening in the global scenario, because that is really important. Now comes the most important factor of understanding how the global investment scenario works. Gold, dollar, and crude. These are the key indicators in the world which helps you understand where the market, where the world is going. What is going to be the future projection? Say, for example, before this COVID-19 loss of sellout of all the economies all over the world, gold started rising. When the gold started rising significantly, a lot of hedge fund managers, a lot of investors started having this indication that something is going to happen, because when anything goes wrong in the global market, gold will always start rising. The reason being why gold is always an insurance. It's like an insurance for them. Gold is always a safe asset. So gold always starts rising when there is something wrong going to happen. So when the gold started rising, there were a lot of hedge fund managers who started selling their positions, started selling their money, and started holding on to the money so that they can buy at the right time. And that's exactly what happened. So you need to always follow dollar, gold, and crude. You need to understand, when the crude goes up, the gold always falls. When gold always goes up, the crude falls. It's more or less the same. So when the gold falls, the crude goes up. When the gold rises, crude goes down. This is very important to understand. And secondly, when gold rises, dollar also rises, because the purchase of gold happens through USD, which is the default undermining currency all over the world. So the moment the purchase of gold happens, the dollar increases. The more dollar increases, the more it becomes difficult to purchase crude. So when dollar rises, crude falls. So these are some key indicators you need to understand, which helps you predict the market, how it's going to go. So now the gold is pricing, you know the crude will fall, and crude has fallen in the last 5 days. It's breached $20. That is WTI. Brent is around 23, 24. You have to understand, this is the easy way to predict the market. Just for your basic understanding, this will help you invest in stocks better, because a lot of stocks are directly connected to dollar, to crude, to gold in the Indian markets as well. Then comes the next investment product, that is Mudaraba. Mudaraba is basically an equity investment into any company, not stock market, into actual companies. Now, when it comes to actual companies, you need to understand how it could be. Now, when you are around opportunities, you have to be, say, for example, I want to start I want to start a restaurant. Now, I am asking an investor to invest 20 lakhs in my restaurant, and I'm giving him equity partnership. Now, for that 20 lakhs, I'm giving him a dividend, which I'll be giving him on a yearly basis or half yearly basis based on what I'm negotiating. This is one form of investment which a lot of people do, which is a common form of investment, which a lot of people do in terms of equity investment. But what people fail to understand is, how do you secure this investment? How do you make sure this investment is growing? How do you make sure that where you are investing is the right place? This, inshallah, I will tell in the significant slides after, in the following slides after mentioning all the other sources of income which you can generate. So in equity, say this is the one model is where you invest into companies, take equity. It could be 1 lakh, it could be 2 lakhs, but you invest, you take equity, you be involved in the company, be involved in the decision making. So you are able to help the company grow, and you are able to safeguard your investment as well. Under this, I would like to bring another category under Mudaraba, which is called Takaful. Takaful is actually a different product in the Islamic banking sector. But I'm bringing this under equity because takaful means either insurance. Takaful actually means insurance in Arabic, but it also can be considered as sharing. Now, what is takaful under the given circumstances in business? How can you invest? Say, for example, I'm starting a restaurant. Now, again, when I'm starting a restaurant, instead of asking 20 lakh rupees from one person, I would rather ask 20 lakh rupees from 5 or 7 people. and I would give them a particular the same investment equity share in multiple halves. This way, what happens is I have many more people inside the not obviously running the business. The running of the business should be done by one person. Only then the business will grow positively. But I have many more people who are supporting the business. When that support happens, when that support comes in, whenever anything goes wrong, there will be more people involved to push the business on top. And this is something which a lot of traditional conventional people work. I've seen a lot of Malayalis work like this. I've seen a lot of many other people in India who work on a joint basis. So this is something which has barakah. This has something which reduces the risk of investment per person, and brings in more people to support the business as well. So this is something you can consider. So if say for example you have a business opportunity for 5 lakh rupees, you can rather bring in 2-3 people with you who will be involved in helping the business grow. And the next point would be the next point would be murabaha. Murabaha is cost plus financing or bridge financing or trade financing. Now, how we generally do murabaha is we invest into resources which we feel has immediate liquidity. For example, I have my brother who exports coconuts to Lulu supermarket in Dubai. Now he exports on an average 4 to 5 containers a month. Now suddenly he's got this demand. He wants 2 or 3 containers extra, and he does not have the money for it. So he asks me for money. What I do is I say, okay, I will not give you money, but rather I will procure the good for you. So I buy the coconuts from who is buying. I say, for example, I'm buying the coconuts at 5 rupees. I sell it to my brother at 5.5 rupees at a credit, at a 30-day credit or 45-day credit. 5.5 is my choice. I'm saying I will share the profit which he's getting. If he's getting, say, 3 rupees profit, I would rather share 1.5 rupees from him. So depends. We negotiate about how it's going to be. So not necessarily should be that high, but depends upon the particular transaction. So I buy at 5 rupees, I sell it to my brother at 5.5 rupees, and I give him a 30 to 45 day credit. In that 30 to 45 day credit, he sends it to Dubai, gets his payment, and shares my money with me. Either that one, or two, I can directly ship it on his behalf to the Dubai company. I have a tri-party agreement with him, and in that way, I get the payments and I share with him whatever is his. So this is something where you can invest in a short span of time with a purchase order. So it's safe. You're buying the goods, you're selling the goods yourself, and you can take control of your own safety. You know there is a business, you know there is an opportunity. You make use of the opportunity. You share the revenue 50-50. So this is a good, quick way of being able to, not quick, but a comfortable way of investing, which has more liquidity, more cash rotation. Coming to the next point, Sukuk, Islamic bonds. Now, Islamic bonds is something which is not existing in India, but how do we consider an Islamic bond structure normally? Now, how do we go with a bond investment? Bond investment meaning you're investing in a company. Say, for example, there is a construction company. They need around 2 to 3 crores to invest into a building which they're constructing. So what you do is you invest in the company. You take a bond for a span of 3 years or 5 years. That bond is issued against an asset. It could be property, it could be anything which secures the asset, which secures the bond. So you are involved for a period of 3 to 5 years. You take a significantly lower margin because bonds don't generate high returns. Bonds are extremely safe, an extremely safe product to invest. They generate hardly around 3% to 6% revenue in a year, because they're 100%, they're almost 99.9% safe, because it is always backed by an asset. And what happens is that bonds are issued by companies based on their assets. So a construction company would have 5-6 assets under their name. So they issue bonds from their company to multiple investors. Once they issue bonds, they get in the investment, they develop the profit, and they share the investment with the investors. And they share the return with the investors, and significantly like this, they keep growing with a very strong margin. So then comes the next part, which is franchise. Finding opportunity is just a matter of believing it's there. You have to always understand, as Brother Miran had said the other day, that his business had grown significantly on the franchise model. And I totally agree. Franchise is a very good model to grow. You already see a company with a significant track record. You've seen a company, alhamdulillah, grow in the past so many years. You understand the people who are running the company. All you want to do is you want to be involved and grow with them. So when you invest your money, you're involved in the business, you're also helping that franchisee grow, you're also supporting the company grow. So with the growth of the company, you also grow. So this is associating yourself with successful business models. When you associate yourself with successful businesses, you can grow. So there are a lot of franchisee models which you can consider. Now, this is where you have to be careful. You cannot just go and buy a franchisee for anything and everything. It does not work like that. You have some certain principles which you need to look forward to before you go into a franchise model. The next would be real estate investment. Real estate investment is wherein you look forward to get your revenue from an fixed asset. Now, it could be either many people would have this plain land available with them. How can they convert that plain land into a revenue model? In the sense, joint venture or either partial sale or whatever it is. But you have to make sure that you can try to make sure that you have an asset which is generating revenue for you, or try to invest in an asset which is generating revenue for you. This is something which is a conventional way of investing in the Indian market. A lot of people, predominant amount of people, find real estate as the only option to invest whenever it comes to investing, which is something which I don't need to talk about much, but many other people understand this better. Now, without doubt, in real estate, there are a couple of investment opportunities which can come. Inshallah, we're looking forward to it, wherein real estate people, the people who want to purchase houses, can get these things in a halal manner, wherein they can procure asset, a property in a more systematic process, wherein the halal housing will be separate, the halal financing will be separate, and the halal establishment in terms of purchase and sale will be separate, inshallah. Then comes gold and silver. As I mentioned to everyone, that gold and silver investing online is haram. The reason being why, when you go to the online commodity investment market, they buy and sell based on contracts. At the Islamic ruling for buying and for buying and selling is, you need to buy from one hand. I mean, you need to pay from one hand and take from the other. If not, when you buy something, you need to gain the possession of the good. If you don't get the possession of the good, that is not considered halal as well. But there are many subcategories to it. There are a lot of people who sit in one place and do their business. They do the actual transaction of this. But under this given business and circumstance, if you are buying gold online, you're not getting the possession, even though you're asking for it. So that is completely considered haram. Second thing, you cannot sell something which you do not possess. You have to possess the commodity. You have to possess the product so that you can sell it. Many people online, what they do when the market is falling, they sell. When the market is going down, they make more money than the market is going up. You cannot sell something which you do not have. So how do you invest in gold and silver? This is where, inshallah, we look forward to come up with a very interesting strategy, where if you have resources around you, if you can look forward to it. The concept is simple. When you are buying gold or when you're buying silver, someone should be backing you where the purchase happens there and is kept. So it's called bullion, actual physical bullion trading. So what happens is, you align yourself with multiple jewelers, multiple people who are into this industry. So when people are investing into gold, when they're buying gold, someone is procuring gold and keeping them, and they're selling, they're selling. So this is called exchange traded funds, ETFs, which are not there right now in India in a Sharia compliant manner, but inshallah, soon it will be. We wanted to launch something like this last month or this month, but because of COVID, it went for a toss. But inshallah, looking forward to do it after Ramadan, inshallah. Now, this is something which you need to understand. Gold and silver are money, everything else is credit. This is something which is a very strong, powerful advice by JP Morgan. Last but not the least, leveraging experience. This is something which I feel is not something which is important, which not many people do. Many people consider themselves not that experienced to share knowledge, but that's not the case. Whatever you have learned, whatever you have experienced in life, everyone has their own experiences. Everyone has their own bit of advice to share. Share it with people who do not have access to it. Share it with people who are just not accessible to that information. You can start with one, you can start with two, you can start making differences in 1, 2, 3, 4 people's life. Once it starts becoming normal, then you will realize that the more you give, the more you get. Always give more, always share more, always teach more. The more you teach, the more you give, the more you get, inshallah. So just to give you a quick recap, this is what we have spoken about. This is what we have spoken about: portfolio management services, mudaraba, that is equity financing; takaful, Islamic endurance, way of reducing risk; murabaha, that is trade financing; sukuk, Islamic bonds; franchise, real estate; gold and silver; and leveraging your experience. This is something which I have discussed about in terms of different sources of income. Now, I have told you what are the different sources of income, but something here which is more important to me is I have told you this, but tomorrow once you do it and then you make a loss, it should not be like, Jubran, by you told me and something like this happened. This is where the next slide comes into place, is where you need to understand whether your investment is right or your investment is wrong. How to analyze your investment, what are the factors which you need to analyze whether what investment you're making is right or wrong. First thing, the investment should be asset based. Asset based meaning there should be something as in the foundation of the company which will help the company grow. Say for example, 2 years back, when I was extremely passionate, aggressive, trying to grow my business, so I went to a couple of auditors who work for some big fours, and I asked them, is there any possibility you can value my company? Valuations are 1.5x, 2x, 3x. He said, Jibran, how can I value your company? I said, come on, I've been doing these investments, I'm making profits, why don't you value my company? He said, Jibran, I cannot value your company because if you die, if something happens to you, there's no value of the company. So unless and until the company does not have a self-sustaining model, unless and until the company does not have something to back it, it is not going to be a successful business. That's when I decided that I will diversify my business into many more other things, which will give me an asset, which will generate a business into my company, which will bring me the resources from different businesses, different industries. That's when we started venturing to convert our company from a service-oriented company to an asset-oriented company. Now, just to give a little more clarity, what asset is? Asset could be a brand. Asset could be manufacturing. Asset could be any property collateral. Assets could be actual share value in the stock market. Anything. The assets is something where when the owner or founder of the company who you have invested upon trusting, he is not there, will the company sustain on its own? That's the most important factor. If the company is not self-sustaining, if the company cannot grow without the founder, it means the company's foundation is at a big risk. And there should be an asset to back it, because something goes wrong, the company should have a cushion to fall upon. It should, let's say for example, if it's a service or consultation based company or a travel tourism based company, in today's market, I'm at a big loss. I'm totally hitting the rock bottom. So how do I make sure my business is strong? I make sure my business is strong only when I know that I'm converting my business into an asset-based model. How can I convert an asset-based model? A lot of people ask me, because services cannot be an asset. Convert it into an asset by creating technology, IT, software. Your own product could be an asset. So for example, for investment, creating my own investment product could be an asset. I can white label, I can leverage that product to many of the companies. These are things which you can consider assets. So for various industries, there are various things you can consider as assets. That goes into each topic. Second thing, make sure the company is debt free and has a good track record, which we discussed in the stocks as well. Good management. Then the fourth point is something very interesting, which I learned when during my first year of my inception. I went for a session in Seapol Logistics, where Brother Ahmed Buhari came to give a speech. So when he came there to give a speech, he was supposed to give a nasiha on how to grow in terms of a business. So he was telling something which his father gave him a nasiha. That is B.S. Abdur Rahman, one of the legendary figures in the Islamic community, who has invested significantly and grown businesses and helped a lot of people. Alhamdulillah, may Allah preserve him and may Allah reward him. So he told his children, always remember, if your business is contributing to the society significantly, your business will always grow. Always make sure that your business is creating a change, or at least helping the people, helping the society in a particular way. This is something which will help your business grow, and that is something which always helped me, because somewhere or the other, if I see that my selfish interests are coming into play, if I feel that I'm becoming more selfishly involved in my business, oh, I have to do this, I have to do that, then in that case, then I immediately change to seeing how it's going to benefit to the society. It helps me bring me back to the track. Then comes transparency, which is very important. Good future prospects. I think I'm already running short of time, but inshallah, let's see. So transparency, which is important. Good future prospects, which is a future good business blueprint for the next 1 year, 3 years, and 5 years. Having a detailed plan in terms of how the company is going to grow, how it's going to establish, where it's going to grow. Break it up point by point, step by step, where you will understand what are the detailed future prospects. Next comes safety of investments, which is important. Either take equity, take some collateral. This is not to keep your money 100% safe. Doesn't make sense. Not all the time you can invest in terms of collateral. But you need to understand, when you are not aware about the business, you don't know what you're doing. If you want to still invest, at least preserve your investment by 80%, 90%, or 70%. How much your risk capacity is. Because keeping 100% safe investment is not halal in Islam. You have to have risk you have to have fluctuations, you have to have transparency. So there has to be a good portion of risk involved if you want your investment to generate halal returns. So make sure you do that, but when you're doing that, you also make sure you secure investment. What if that company owner just randomly vanishes or something? Just, I mean, this is just random talks, but there could be a lot of reasons what could happen, where it could go wrong. So you need to have something to safeguard your investment. Last, always prepare for the worst. Always consider the worst case scenario when it comes to investing. Always make sure that you are able to prepare yourself for the worst case scenario. What if this partnership goes wrong? What if something happens? What if this business fails? What if this happens? What, etc. Before investing, think always of the worst case scenarios. This will help you draft your foundation stronger. This will help you gauge your growth process. This will help you know where exactly to go. Then comes a few tips in terms of how to allocate your portfolio. This is something which I have taken from the top 10 hedge fund investment companies all over the world. They have been successful for the past 20-25 years in giving consistent returns. This is how they allocate their funds. They use 7.5% for gold. They use 7.5% to generate revenue from real estate. They use 15% as intermediate sukuk or bonds. What are bonds? They generally invest into government. So Malaysia has halal bonds. You have Dubai has halal bonds, if I'm not wrong. So a lot of countries have halal bonds. So these bonds are issued by the government themselves. So it's quite secure. But they generate very less return. They generate somewhere around 2.5 to 4, which is actually very high. Bonds on an average in the Pan-Asian countries generate around 1 to 2.5%. So invest 15% to bonds, 30% to stocks, because stocks are the most aggressive thing to look forward to. So what they do is they generally invest most of 30% of the corpus into stocks, and the balance 40% they generally try to invest into real estate bonds. Now this is something which is interesting, because many people want to invest into real estate, where they use a huge corpus of their money to invest into real estate, but they don't understand that the liquidity crunch is high. In today's situation, when you want money, you cannot sell your property. Your property is there, it has a book value, but it does not give you any benefit unless until it is not giving you the liquidity you need when you need it. So that's when something called long-term real estate bonds come into play, where the government issue bonds which are against real estate properties. So you're able to enjoy the real estate trend. You're also able to enjoy the growth with the real estate. The investment is 100% secure, and the investment has immediate liquidity whenever you want. Liquidity is whenever you want to sell, you can sell the portfolio. Next comes, I'm almost towards the end of my presentation. I have 2 more slides, inshallah. So today's this is something which I would like to share with you, 5 tips to increase your wealth. It's not that I'm a wealthy person, but this is something which I've seen with experience through the mentors, through the people I have associated with, the people I've seen. What are the things which help them increase their wealth? What are the things which help them give barakah in their investment? The first is being away from riba or interest. Now, this is something for the people who are Muslims here. They understand that riba is a very grave topic, or very intense topic in Islam. It's like waging war with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But for the non-Muslims here, you need to understand the fact of depending on riba is programming your mind to be dependent on borrowed money. I'll repeat that again. The fact that you're dependent on interest, it means you are programming your mind to be dependent on borrowed money. So this is for all the non-Muslims who do not understand why riba is prohibited in Islam, because riba is a luring factor. Interest is something which is luring, because you get money which you do not have to get things which you do not have. You take money from banks which you do not have. You just take it to buy things which you do not have, or to use it on things which you do not have. So this is something which is fundamentally wrong. The next point will be showing gratitude. Shukr, which is very important, which something which enhances your positivity, which enhances a lot of things in one's personality. When you're grateful for the things you have, you're humble, you're modest, you're also heavily positive. You don't have anything to lose. You're always thankful to what you have. You're not worried about anything and everything. You just believe, Alhamdulillah, this is Allah's wish, and I'm more than happy. Now, shukr is something which is very important to develop that positivity in yourself. For the people who do not understand the concept of shukr in Islam, you need to understand there's something called law of attraction, which a lot of people believe into, where when you think positive, when you do positive, when you feel positive, positive things exaggerate in multiples and come to you. So this is something which you need to understand. Then comes seeking Allah's forgiveness, which is istighfar. Allah says in the glorious Quran, فَقُلْتُ اسْتَغْفِرُوا إِنَّهُ كَانَ غَفَارًا. It is there in Surah Nuh, where Prophet Nuh told this to his people for almost 950 years. He told them, ask for forgiveness, Allah will give you wealth if you don't have. Ask for forgiveness, if Allah will give you children if you don't have. Ask for forgiveness, Allah will give you rain if you don't have. And ask for forgiveness, Allah will give you another mention, something else he mentions, which I'm not able to recollect. This is something which is extremely beneficial. Many people don't realize, but istighfar is extremely good tip to increase your wealth. For all those non-Muslim people who do not understand, or my non-Muslim brothers and sisters who do not understand what istighfar is all about, it is accountability. The more you're conscious about what you're going to do, the more you're conscious about what you're doing is right or wrong, the more you're conscious about every action you do, every thought you have, every deed you do is something which is accountability, which is the concept of istighfar, to make sure you correct yourself into the right path. And this is something which is alhamdulillah blessed a lot of people. Istighfar is something which gives a lot of barakah into any investment. I've personally witnessed it with a few people who have been my mentors. I've seen them how they generally work with their investments, and alhamdulillah, may Allah preserve them. Next comes keeping family ties, which is very important. We're maintaining relationship with your kith and kin, which is very, very good. This also helps not only your family but also your business protocols as well, because a person who knows to keep relationship with the family will surely keep relationships with the business circle as well. So keeping relationships is barakah, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as the hadith of the Prophet is, a person who maintains relationship with his kith and kin, his sustenance and his hayat and his risk increases. So this is something which will help you increase. So all those people who are not in good relationship with the family, who are not in good relationship with the brothers, the sisters, or don't talk well with the kith and kin, or are not in touch also, just call and drop in a hi and say hi and see the barakah of it, inshallah. And I think this lockdown is actually doing that a lot. People are calling different people from different places, and inshallah, may Allah give barakah to all the people who are doing this. Last but not the least, spending in charity. Now, this is something which I really want to insist upon. People give charity, people do charity, but here, what I mean by charity is zakat, because zakat is the founding pillar for a successful investment. What is zakat? Zakat is making sure that you make Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala a partner in your investment. It is preserving your investment, it is securing your investment. For my non-Muslim brothers and sisters, or my dear friends, you need to, what we mean by zakat, what we mean by charity is programming your mind to give when you, even though when you do not have means, you're programming your mind that you have sufficient. If I have only 10,000 rupees in my bank account, now when I think, should I give? Should I give? You don't feel like giving because you don't have money to run your own livelihood, you would think. But only at that time when you give is when you're programming your mind, I have enough. That is your way of multiplying your positivity. That is your way of multiplying your risk, multiplying your sustenance. The more you give, the more you program your mind, you have enough. That is most important. Coming back to what zakat, in the Islamic perspective, this is where so many people make a mistake. This is where so many people make losses. They have to give zakat before they invest the money. They have to give zakat after they invest the money, and they have to give zakat when they get the profits of the money. That is something which protects your money. That is something which gives barakah in it, and that is something which a lot of people don't do, and that's something which is indirectly a reason I personally feel in my experience for a lot of investments to go wrong. You have to use zakat to protect your money, which will inshallah help a lot of people, because I have personally seen a lot of people who insist on the concept of zakat. Allah has blessed him with significant barakah. So you have to not cheat in zakat. You have to give zakat fearlessly, because when that happens, inshallah, Allah will give you barakah. And zakat is different, sadaqah is different, all of you understand. But charity again is good, alhamdulillah. So if you want to give charity as well, that is totally up to you. But I want to add something here also, something which I think I did not add in this slide. The value of secrecy is very important. Many people don't understand the value of secrecy. When you invest, when you have money, when you have success, you need to learn to be modest, secretive about it, because the best of your deeds are secretive. When you give charity, you give in secrecy. The right hand should not know when your left hand is giving, or the left hand should not know when your right hand is giving. The best of your alternative prayers, the hajj, is performed in secrecy. Fasting is secrecy. So many things are secrecy. You need to understand the barakah of secrecy. The more people don't know about what you're doing, the better for you. You don't have to tell the whole world how you're growing, how much you're investing, how much you're making, where you're doing. The more you secretive you are, the more barakah, inshallah, Allah will give. This is again something which I really believe into. Last but not the least, I'd like to finish off my session today by telling you to think big. What, according to me, thinking big is, B stands for the books you read. It's important that you read books. It's important you gain knowledge. A person who spends 10 minutes a day reading a book would finish one book a month. And similarly, if you follow the same routine, you will finish 12 books a year, which is 80% more than what other people do. And imagine how much knowledge you're gaining, how much you're developing, how much you're growing. So it's important that you read and you gain knowledge. So it's the books you read, which is the B of the big for me. The individuals you meet, it's very important to surround yourself with people who challenge you, who motivate you, who always push yourself to become better. When you bring yourself around those people, you learn more. You have to make sure that you have to see whether the people around you make you extremely comfortable or make you want to learn more, make you want to become better. It's really important you surround yourself with people like this who, inshallah, will help you become a better personality, will inshallah help you motivate to become a better person. That's exactly why they say if you want to know the character of a person, find out how his friends are. So you have to make sure that you find out the right individuals you can interact with, inshallah. Last but not the least, the goals you keep. Many people keep goals and they see, okay, I have to achieve this, I have to achieve that. For me, what goals are? If you have a target, if you have a goal, pen down 20 different things which you can write to achieve that goal, which is something called the rule of 20, which even the famous Warren Buffett says, and many other successful businessmen encourage people to do. If you have a goal, if you have a target, if you have something you want to achieve in business, in investments, write down that goal. Write down 20 different ways you can achieve it. Many people will not be able to cross 5 or 7 or 8. If you can get those 20 things, it means you have thoroughly understood the concept, number one. And if you're able to execute those 20 things, there are high chances that inshallah you will reach your goal. Jazakallah khairan. I would like to thank you all for your patience. I hope I have not taken much time, and I would like to thank all the people involved with this session to help motivate and encourage all the people. Jazakallah khairan. Handing over to you, Asmatullah. Assalamu alaikum.
Jazakumullah khair, Brother Jubran. That was indeed an enlightening session and definitely a wonderful way of defining wealth. That was really impressive. And the insights provided by the investments, I'm sure they would have made inroads in the minds of all our participants. I'm sure we all would have gained vastly from this session. Now, who would say no to create an alternate source of income? I don't think there would be anybody. And as rightly said, um, sharing knowledge doesn't need one to be a scholar. As the hadith of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, "Balligh anni walau ayah." Prophet said, "Convey from my teachings to the people, even if it were a single verse." Now, on that note, we have a lot of questions which have come our way, starting from a brother who has asked that, Assalamu alaikum, brother. I'm from the US, San Francisco. The time is pretty late here. By the time we end the session, it would be pretty late. So could you please send us the lecture? As I have mentioned during the start of the session, all the webinars which we have conducted till this date have all been uploaded to our Facebook page and also the YouTube channel. Now, each one of the participants can please go to the Facebook page and the YouTube channel, and then they can share it with their friends, they can view, and they can also ask the questions. Brother Jubran, almost all the questions which we have received here are asking for the Sharia compliance, and I think the best way that we can answer is getting the scholars to answer on all these questions. So we request all the participants who have asked us the questions to please post your questions in our FB page or in our YouTube channel. We would get them clarified from our scholars, the Islamic scholars, and then we would answer all your questions on our FB page and YouTube channel.
I would just like to clarify. I think I missed mentioning a point which a couple of people I think would be curious to know. When it comes to the industry, it is very important to know which industry is halal, which industry is haram. It's exactly what you need. It is a detailed topic. I cannot tell you every particular industry because every industry has its pros and cons. And as I gave an example of Infosys, it was just an example. The scholarly opinion when it comes to IOF and IFSB is 5% of the company, more than 5% of the company should not be involved with non-Sharia compliant related companies. So that is something which will give a sense of clarity, but it is a very intense and a detailed topic which cannot be described in 50 minutes of what I have. Anyone who has a doubt, inshallah, can always contact me. There's no problem.
Right. Now, unfortunately for us, while we planned this webinar, the lockdown situation because of COVID-19 was to get over till the 15th of April. Now, unfortunately for us, the lockdown has been extended. And while indeed it is the requirement to control the current COVID-19 spread, it has also provided us with an opportunity to learn and grow our knowledge. Now, with that as a factor, we would like to know your suggestion if you would want us to extend our session for a next set of speakers and various topics which are relevant to you. As Brother Jubran has said, who would not want to, the successful people are those who grab the opportunities and gain when they are presented to them. So we would like to know if you would be interested in going ahead with the next set of sessions with different topics and different speakers. All right, now with that, we see a lot of SS from our participants. Sure, yes, sure, indeed, alhamdulillah. All right, that seems to be never ending. Alhamdulillah, the responses that we are getting are immense. Alhamdulillah, so we take that as a positive response from our participants that they are immensely interested in attending our webinars, and that goes to show that all our webinars have indeed been useful, knowledge gaining and experience gaining. Now, as everybody has said, sharing is gaining. So we request you again to share our Facebook page and like the videos that you have, and please share it with your friends so that they also gain the knowledge. On this note, we thank everybody, the participants, especially the participants. Without you, the webinar would not be successful. And of course, our speaker, Jubran Siddique, and all our panelists. On that note, we conclude the seminar. Jazakumullahu khair wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.